Hey, Rob Pincus here. We are driving up from the week we've been calling The Gathering down at Brownell's Big Spring Range down in Iowa, Searsboro, Iowa. Cedar Valley Outfitters has been hosting a class for a whole bunch of PDN tour contributors and CFS instructors. A bunch of our team members are still down there now. They're just finishing up the last part of a defensive rifle class, combat focused carbine class. Amari Broussard's lead instructor down there. I got Barrett Kendrick, Bearco Training here with me. We're getting ready to go do a reality-based instructor development course in Faribault, Minnesota, Rice County. Jeff Mullenmeister is our host there. Got a bunch of law enforcement guys looking to do more realistic training, and we're going to spend 3 days with them, scenario training, principles, and things like that. Obviously, we're listening to the news, hearing about everything that people are talking about down in Florida with this spree killing, over 50 dead, 50 plus more wounded. We've got a lot of students down there in Orlando and Orange County over the years. SWAT Roundup, Barrett and I have both taught there. Omari, several of our Derek Poole, several of our team have been teaching there for a long time. And hoping to hear from those guys. Got a couple of messages already about some guys being okay or not being involved or being on scene either way. And we hope everybody that we know down there is doing well. Still find out whether or not we lost anybody we knew or anybody we knew was injured, obviously, as time goes on. What is disheartening on both sides, obviously, is the rhetoric that goes on, the politics every time we get a situation like this, and that's what I'm seeing a lot on the social media. Of course, hearing it on the different news channels, depending on which one we're listening to at the time, scanning through to get as much information as we can. And it's both sides. It's our side not missing an opportunity to lament the gun-free zones and things like that, and the anti-gun side talking about gun control and background checks and all these things, when we know that it seems these guns were owned legally. Person not only was a licensed security, but apparently concealed carry permit. The big deal for me is mindset. The big deal for me is we should be talking about the will to fight. I heard somebody on the news, one of the channels this morning, talking about how easy it is in a confined space for somebody with a long gun, with a rifle like this guy used, to do whatever he wants, and he, quote unquote, had all the time he needed. What we know and what we train is that in a confined space like that, a rifle can be a liability. And if you have the will to fight, if you have the knowledge, if we demystify the gun, if we take the gun out of it, I've seen so many people say, well, it's a gun-free zone if there had been an armed person there. My understanding is the reports that there was an armed person there. There was an off-duty police officer working security detail there who was armed and who did engage the suspect very early on. So, it's not about a good guy with a gun. It's not about the gun-free zone. It's about the will to fight. With our SARC program after Sandy Hook, with our active shooter response program that we're doing a lot of work with my team at Endeavor CrossFit, Endeavor Defense and Fitness in Ohio. You may have seen some of the stuff we've been putting out on the Blaze. A couple good videos have come out on that recently. Of course, we've got all the information at Personal Defense Network. We've been preaching evade, barricade, and respond as appropriate, respond as necessary. And Alabama schools with kids putting cans in the back of the room, ready to throw cans at an intruder, talking about unarmed responses, talking about demystifying the gun, the fact that the gun isn't a magic talisman of safety, it's not a magic talisman of doom. It's not about the equipment, it's about the will. It's about the will to fight. The ability to tell yourself that you're gonna take your jacket off and throw it over a guy and swarm him. You're gonna pick up a chair. You're gonna pick up all the bottles, all just the fluids alone, just a distraction, and then charge at the guy with a table, with a chair, with a bottle, whatever else you've got there in the dance club. The opportunities with the bottles behind the bar, any of the glass to make a sharp edge, or just as an impact device. Fire extinguishers, again, distraction and an impact device. Brooms, mops, that they're there because they're cleaning up spilled drinks all night at the club. They're getting ready to close. The employees have those things. The opportunities are available to them to improvise defensive tools, to have the mindset to swarm someone. Is someone going to get hurt if you swarm a gunman? Sure. But do we know that unarmed people have defended themselves, have defeated gunmen, have defeated terrorists on trains, intent on doing harm with multiple weapons? Absolutely. So, for me, it's the agenda. For me, it's the agenda of education, the agenda of mindset. I'll be putting out a lot of links when we get to the hotel up here in Minnesota in a few hours. I'll do the regular. I'll put out the links for all the active shooter response, all the spreekiller response information we put out, whether you're armed or unarmed. There's a lot of information out there. And I call on the firearms community and the personal defense mindset community to remind everybody about this important aspect. Leave the politics aside. Don't leave the politics aside forever. Leave it aside for a day. people are talking about this now, talk about mindset, talk about education, talk about the opportunities people have to defend themselves, whether they carry a firearm or not. Because I'll tell you right now, the politics on our side, if we change the mindset, if we remind people that they have an obligation to defend themselves, they have an obligation to defend one another. The evil exists. We could be visited by that evil, and we have a responsibility to be prepared to defend ourselves from that evil. That's what leads people to the obvious conclusion that a firearm in the hands of a good guy is a great tool, something that can be used to great effect to stop a bad guy. But if somebody hasn't already accepted that they have a responsibility for personal defense, they have a responsibility to fight evil, then why should we think they're going to instantly decide, oh yeah, you're right, we wish somebody there had a gun, or we wish more people there had guns, we wish there were more guns out there? What they really need to accept first is the responsibility to defend themselves. If we have the responsibility to defend ourselves, the logical conclusion becomes, oh, a firearm can make me a lot more capable. In certain situations, maybe you don't need the firearm, but there are certain situations where you cannot deny the firearm is the best tool for the job. Sometimes you have the firearm and it's still not the best tool for the job or the best option. You know, that evade, barricade, respond as appropriate, respond if necessary. There are other options. But for me, education is the agenda, mindset, willingness to fight, and it is an obligation. You know, if more people stood up to bullies, if we allowed kids to stand up to bullies in school, bullying stops. If we allowed kids to stand up for what's right, if we tell kids and we're empowering them to not just hide under their desks or hide in the corner and wait for the special good guys with guns to show up, but that they can fight back and in fact should fight back and not just be victimized, I think it changes society. I've said this a lot. I think if we teach kids to fight back, if we teach a 12-year-old that they can fight back against an armed lunatic spree killer in their school, how does that 12-year-old get bullied by a guy who's 2 inches taller than him? How do if we teach little girls to fight back in school, how does that woman get intimidated and abused and attacked socially when she's been told, fight back, you're worthwhile, your body is worthwhile, your brain is worthwhile, your life is worthwhile, it's worth fighting for? So I think that's how we change society. It's not by talking about gun-free zones, and it's not the normal rhetoric about a good guy with a gun. It's about reminding people that we all have an obligation to work together to fight evil. So that's my driving rant today, moving from Iowa with a week of great classes helping people prepare themselves to defend themselves and each other. Moving into now a law enforcement class where we're going to help law enforcement instructors prepare those first responders to be more efficient and to be better prepared because they did reality-based training scenarios that'll address things like this spree killing we just saw down in Florida, and down to domestic violence and traffic stops that go bad and everything else. Preparation and education.